Welcome to Architects of Opportunities, a series on founders of nonprofit organizations. We will look at how one person or a few people saw a need in your community and found a way to fill it. Who are the people that are inspired to see a need and bring others together to lend a hand, and not for profit? They are the nonprofit founders. Founders are everyday heroes. They envision possibility and persevere to accomplish it. Founders in all sectors and across the country share a common vision. They want to make a difference. Today, we will introduce you to one organization who makes a contribution to your community. Well, welcome. I want to introduce John Rumsey, the founder of Marin Ventures, and Jami Davis, the executive director for several years now, and Terry Scussel. Are you still board president, Terry?
Been board president for quite some time.
Fantastic. Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for being here. And so I'm going to launch right into it. And John, tell us about the early days. What happened? What was your impetus for starting Marin Ventures?
Well, I was working at another agency in Marin, serving people severely and profoundly involved. And at that time there was, as usual, a rate crisis in the state. And the executive director of that program felt he could no longer serve those clients for the rate that they were being paid. And because of a quirk in the rate setting mechanism, a new program would get a higher rate. So a group of parents came to me and said, why don't you start another program for these people who are about to be disenfranchised, essentially. So that was the start. I submitted a grant to the regional center. I went to my mother and asked her for $60,000 in loan, and she gave it to me. And we started with nothing and then built an organization from there. And that was, the grant was awarded in February of 1990. And we started on June of 1990. We had to start the last day of June just to qualify for another way to get more money into the program. So that's how we started. And we did not come to our site now because we had found that, but it had to remove asbestos vinyl tile and do all this remodeling. So we stayed in two portable buildings down in Mill Valley for about 6 months and moved here in December of 1990.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that. How many clients did you have at that time?
We started with 24.
And how many do you have now?
Over 100.
Yeah, 106.
Fantastic. Jami, how long have you been executive director?
Since April 2011, but I was actually an original employee in 1990. So I started June 29, 1990.
Yeah, I forgot to mention it. Jami ought to be considered a founder too. She came from the old program to the new program, and with a slight break to get her PhD, has been with Marin Ventures most of the time.
Yeah, I would say for 25 years. Our anniversary is this June, and I've worked here all but 7 of those, I guess. It seems longer.
I don't know, or shorter. It seems longer. And Terry, you? How did you happen into it?
Well, my daughter is a client at Marin Ventures, and I think she might have started here in 2005, when she turned 22. She aged out of the county school system, and my wife had gone through into a whole bunch of programs, came over here and met with John and some other folks and did a tour, and fell in love with the place. And so my daughter then joined, became a client. And then shortly thereafter, I think it was at a holiday party a few months later, I mentioned to John that I was doing some other board work supporting people with disabilities, particularly developmental disabilities. I guess that clicked, and the next week I got a call to join the board and to meet with John and then the then president at that time. And a few years later, I became president, and I've been president ever since. And during that time, a lot of things have changed. You know, of course, we've changed executive directors, we've doubled the size of the program, and just a lot of different things that occurred. John retired.
When I did meet Terry at the Christmas party, I was really struck with his business skills and what he brought to the board. And we needed, I knew we were going to have some challenging times, and I wanted a really strong businessman presence on the board. So, and, you know, after about a half-hour conversation with Terry, I said, I've got to have this guy on my board.
That's the mastery, and you got him.
And we kept him.
You kept him, that's right. Let's talk a little bit about those challenges, because other new founders will be looking at this, and they're interested in how was it that you kept going? What made you keep going? Because I know times have been tough over the years with funding and donations and client problems. And so can you tell me a little bit about that, John?
Well, in the beginning, it was easier than one would expect because, first of all, it was that unique time where we could project our cost of doing services and actually get a rate for the first 6 months, I think, or so, that would cover those costs. So that was a plus. And also, we were receiving adult education funding during that time also, which allowed us to really provide enhanced services such as occupational therapy and art therapy. So for us, it wasn't as tough as it would be for some other folks. Plus, in California, persons with developmental disabilities are entitled to services. So we knew we would always have a referral base to come to the program. It's really gotten bad since then. I mean, it's hard to believe we look back at that time as being the glory years, but they really were. Rates have not increased. In fact, they've decreased, not even close to covering the cost of living. And recently, the Association of Regional Center Agencies, which is the kind of the broker of services in California, there's 21 of them, and they put out a paper, they all supported this paper saying that the system is on the brink of collapse because of the absence of funding. So really the startup for me was not as difficult as Jami's dealing now with a massively underfunded system that shows no sign of any enhanced money whatsoever.
How do you deal with that, Jami?
I believe when we started in 1990, our rate for a 1-to-3 ratio program was around $75 a day.
It's higher than it is today.
Well, it's 78 now.
Yeah.
But that's...
It's basically the same
yes,
for the 1-to-3 programs.
What is the 1-to-3 program?
It means there's one instructor for every 3 clients.
I see. Okay.
And that's about 2/3 of the group.
Okay.
How do I do it now? Well, I've steadily increased our fundraising. We weren't really a fundraising organization before. We took donations, but only because we put an envelope in the newsletter and, you know, and took money if we were asked for it or offered it. But I've been strategic in looking at who's giving us money, when are they giving us money, you know, what can I do to facilitate that? And we don't really apply for grants. I mean, I don't have a development department or development help, and that's a kind of particular skill. But there have been a couple have come our way, a couple of grants, but small ones, a couple $1,000s. Mostly it's people writing the check and sending it.
Well, congratulations on that. Well, you have a compelling program, and your parents advocate for you in that, don't they?
Yes, yes. And we have a lot of parents who are active on the board. I mean, our board is about 4 parents or family members.
Four parents.
4 or 5.
And then actually a 5th one you take, one had a family member was here that passed away. So it's very, very active. And about 50% of our clients live at home still, which means there's a lot of activity with those family members. It could be parents or sisters or brothers or aunts or uncles or whatever, and they've helped immensely with our donor program.
I want to say just one thing about grants, because that's usually where the people in the nonprofit world first go to get additional money. The problem with our agency, and I would assume with other agencies, is grants are usually for special projects. Grantors want to see a project that they can take responsibility for funding and have great results. Really what nonprofits such as Marin Ventures need are operating costs. And so if you get a grant, you really create more work for yourself because after the grant expires, you're responsible for sustaining that program. The real challenge is to get money to run the day-to-day operations and to give woefully underpaid staff increase in their salary.
That's a good point, and I'm sure that that's something that new startup nonprofits need to know. There are a lot of nonprofits in Marin, and many that even duplicate your services. Do you have a capacity edge that would warrant a new nonprofit going into the same line of business that you're in?
The way it works is the Golden Gate Regional Center, whose catchment area we're in, they would put out a request for proposals, and they would determine whether or not there is a need for a new program, and then people would write the proposal, participate in the process. Anyone can go and start a program through community care licensing, but it doesn't mean you'll get referrals from the regional center.
Oh, okay, and it doesn't maybe mean you'll get funding from the government? Okay.
Yeah.
And then Terry, how many are on your board now?
There are six on the board.
Oh,
now.
okay,
And
4
we're
are
actually-
parents.
Yeah, right, and we're actually looking for a seventh, like to have an odd number.
Oh, you like to have a course for voting.
Yeah, exactly.
Three are parents and one's a sister.
Oh, I see,
Yeah.
okay.
There's some-
Okay, great. And how do you go about getting board members?
Probably the most notable has been active family members. I mean, that has really been a mainstay. We do like to make sure certain key expertise is available to us. So we have a board member that's got an enormous amount of financial background, and another one that's got a lot of real estate background. Some that have worked as social workers. I mean, we're looking for people that can give us a well-rounded board with the expertise that we need to make the decisions we have to make. And so we actually have a very good board, and we've had one for a long time. We've had some board members that have left, and we replaced them with equally qualified board members.
Congratulations on that. And then I have a question for you, Jami. Are you filled to capacity, or are you taking new clients?
We have been as high as 110. We do have capacity, based on different entities that oversee us, capacity for the building versus capacity for the program. But there are always new program models, and we're in kind of a state of change right now with some expectations for the federal government, which gives money to California to give to the regional centers to give to us. And so we're not directly government funded. It's through another private nonprofit that actually is the one funded by the state. And so there are going to be some pressures to have people not in buildings like this, but more in the community.
Oh.
And we already are in the community a lot, do shopping, libraries, swimming, what have you. But there will be more pressure to people feel that they're a part of the community they live in, and in all aspects of their lives.
Could you talk a little bit about that and how you accomplish that?
Part of it is to have people feel like they're part of the community.
Yes.
Familiarity, so always go to the Dollar Tree on Ignacio, and I actually featured them in an article and showed people going shopping in our last newsletter, and so people are, by repetition, they're learning the store, they're learning to make transactions, the people that work there are getting to know the needs of our clients. So it's through repetition of going and over time building up. Instead of the staff saying to someone, put your money on the counter, then the person just learns to put their money on the counter, and the cashier will even prompt the person instead of the staff prompting the person. So over time those relationships build up, and maybe we're not there, they're saying, hey, we miss the Marin Ventures gang, or
nice.
so that type of repetition and familiarity, so that people are learning and not just being there.
And people in the community are learning to feel comfortable around folks with disabilities. It works in both ways.
Yes.
And what other programs do you have that, I heard people singing when we came in? And, yeah.
There's a lot of music. We have like a heavy metal band called the Rippers.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That are actually starting to do shows around the Bay Area and different, mostly other day programs, but they've been at a conference or two for people with developmental disabilities and done played there. We have just sing-alongs. We have some volunteers that come in. Bread and Roses, which is another nonprofit in Marin, they send performers about once a quarter. Karaoke, which is happening right now, I heard earlier. We have an art program, which has been a part of Marin Ventures since we started our art studio.
I see the art around the wall. We'll try to capture that.
We also have a kiln, and we just, the Rotary, 3 different Rotary clubs helped us purchase a barrier-free potter's wheel last year. And so some people are learning to throw pots.
Fantastic.
And they're turning out really neat, you know, it's really fun. And all kinds of other media, you know, some people trace and paint, and some people build things out of leftover things. And
You have a garden.
we have a garden that is Marin Master Gardeners comes and assists our clients and assists us with maintaining it, guiding us, I would say, facilitating the work. And it's grown from just a few beds to, we have 6, 7, 8 or 9 beds now, and raised beds, and some other enhancements. And so anyway, we grow, you know, beautiful plants.
Wonderful.
It's a sensory garden, so there's good things to smell, there's good things to touch, there's a water feature that's nice to sit in at. And we did just get a grant from the Marin Outdoor Art Club, and we're going to be building a succulent habitat in the back.
Fabulous. Wonderful.
So with some raised beds back there.
Well, it's sounding like many of the nonprofits support you and you interact with them, and that is one of the things we are eager to have the general public know, that there are so many nonprofits. They're all working on making our community better, and they interact and collaborate with each other.
One of the things we've recently done, and I'd like to, you know, we can't leave our staff out of any discussion, because this work is not well paid. In any caregiving role in Marin, people are earning around $12 or $13 an hour, unless they've been with someone a long time, and then maybe they're earning a little bit more. But it's difficult work. It can be hazardous work, you know, a lot of shifting people, lifting. And so we're always striving to do things for our staff that will improve. You know, can't give them a raise, we could give them something else. So one of the programs I did this year was to work with the YMCA. And we brought in trainers to teach us a stretching program. And so they came in and did a train-to-trainer kind of thing.
Yes.
And that's been really great.
Oh, congratulations. That's great.
Yeah, so that's another nonprofit that I think has been important to partner with for our staff.
Wonderful.
And maybe looking more next year at other kind of wellness programs.
That's really innovative. It's great. It's as if you're working with the staff to increase their skills and abilities, just like you are the clients.
We did an ESL for caregivers. I worked with a College of Marin ESL teacher, and several of our staff stayed after work last fall, 1 hour, and she developed a curriculum which we now own, ESL for caregivers. It was nice because she came here. For a lot of our staff, it's difficult for them to go somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
and because they work 2 jobs usually.
Yes.
And so, I structured around what they could do.
Mhm.
I've also done working with the YMCA. I sent people, I offered them the opportunity to go to a class. They have 90 days to wellness. And so I said I would pay for up to 4 people to go, and I think 1 or 2 people went.
Oh, good.
And so that was a thing where they showed me they completed it, and we paid for it. So I'm trying to work on their health and well-being as well, because if they're not here, our clients don't have a good experience.
Right. Well, it sounds like, John, you launched an amazing program, and then when it was time for you to retire, I remember this. Jami came in, and I got the honor of working with the board, and Jami took over, and it looks like you've enhanced what John started. And how was it for you to leave?
Well, first of all, it was a great job. I had offers to go other places to be the chief executive officer, but I love Marin. And so the opportunity to start something from scratch was really kind of like the capstone for my career.
Yes.
So I loved it here. And when I turned 66, it was definitely time for me to go. Jami talked about what she's done with fundraising. That wasn't a particular skill of mine, so it was time to make that transition. I thought we had constructed
Also, a number of other programs out there as well that these folks depend on for their resources, and they don't have a lot of voice.
Mm-hmm.
So it really depends on us as advocates to be their voice.
And I want to just add to what Terry said. The changes that I've noticed in the nature of the client since we started is that the state has a kind of a financial and an ethical responsibility to take folks that are in state hospitals, segregated away from their home communities, and putting them back in the community. But these folks obviously have significant needs, and the programs have had to adapt to the more challenging clients over the years. But the reality is we're saving the state money. That cost per client in a state institution is getting close to $500,000 a year. We can serve this client in the natural home environment for a significant percentage less than that. But yet there still is cost in serving these clients with multiple and special needs. And it would be really nice if the state would recognize that by transferring these clients, they save money, but we could use some of it to provide a quality service.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Would you say that there are clients that are not being served in our community? There are clients that are still at home and their parents don't have a way to or know about organizations like yours?
There are some, that I still get calls from folks around from different, because I know I'm pretty active in this world, where they want to get attached to the regional center or some type of supportive services of different types of sort. But Marin is a small community. Things get around. You learn things from the special needs schools, from various social workers. There's a lot of information out there, but it's interesting. There are folks that kind of were before this stuff that are still at home, but it's very valuable. The other day, my daughter got out to the Golden Gate Transit bus and she was just so excited about being taken out to the community, and I think that's valuable. At some point, many of the parents tend to age out as well, so you need to get your loved ones prepared for their next phase in life. And so this is a program that can help you do that.
Well, thank you very much for your work. Does anyone, Jami, did you have one?
Well, I was just going to say that Lanterman, like the Lanterman Act, which is what entitled the services, was in the late 60s. So it's, 50 years old nearly. So if anyone's at home, with their family that doesn't know about the Lanterman, they're probably pretty elderly by now. Mm-hmm. Most, when they go through the school, the required transition plan, if they're in special education, would then hook them up with the regional center. And some people choose not to work with a regional center, in which case they would not be funded for a program like this. Mm-hmm. They would have to pay for it themselves. I think the caseload of Golden Gate Regional Center in Marin County is about 1,100 people, and about 300 of those are kids. So it's a small group compared to the 280,000 people with developmental disabilities that are served in California in the community. So it's a big system.
It is a big system. It's good to have those statistics.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's really a privilege to be with you again.
I help nonprofits hire staff and leaders to carry on their founder's vision. And so I've seen hundreds of nonprofits contribute to our community. We created Architects of Opportunities to share that with you. Now, nonprofit founders will tell you they don't do it alone. If you're among the 25% of us who are volunteers or volunteer board members or staff or donors, thank you. And if you're not, please join us in making a difference.